Okay, let me start from here. So we need to know first, like, why we are using the Aura components, and when we say the Aura components, what does it mean to you guys? So let me log into my Salesforce account. Actually, let me get this one here. So what is the component, first of all? Like, there are some drag and drop components. Like we were just checking that one over the Lightning App Builder. And there are some Lightning pages, like some home pages, app pages, record pages, right? So if I go here, to this setup, I am already on setup. I can open up any of them, or I can just go through. So this is the recruitment homepage, which we were designing with the flows. We were just creating some components for here. So each and every box here, this one or this one, these are components. And what we were doing, for example, this one, we created a flow on the admin side, and then we use that flow. We just pick up the flow from here. We drag and drop it to here somewhere, and then we picked like which flow we would like to use for here. And if we go back to this flow or any of this one, we just created these are like without writing any code. The difference right now on the Aura component, instead of like preparing these components by the like without writing any code, we need to type some codes to create this box. So basically we are creating something user can see on the UI side, because still we are on the backend right now. But if I go to the UI side, this is my recruitment app. This is the home page for it, which is this one, recruitment homepage. So we design here in that way user can see the same way, however we created this page. This one is a one component. This one is another. This one is another. This one, it is for the events, tasks. So we were just picking up from here according to like what kind of component we are looking for. There are some standard components and custom components. For example, if we choose something, instead of clicking, we were just dragging and dropping it. So same way, we are going to create some component on the backend by writing the code. After then, we are going to use them like whatever is the component we created, we are gonna be able to see here. And then we are gonna drag and drop it here. Then we are gonna use them on the UI side. This is the main purpose. It can be on the home page, it can be on the like app page or the record page. That's not the big deal, because finally we are just creating something like this and it should be functional. So whenever you put here, it is gonna be a record, for example. So this is the main purpose. And what is the difference like between the Lightning components? Because sometimes while they are describing or while they are asking you questions during the interview, sometimes they are confusing with the like Lightning Web components, like Aura components. So Aura component is part of the Lightning component. And also Lightning Web component is part of the Lightning component. So if somebody is asking you something about the Lightning component, they can mean the Aura components or the Lightning Web component. But like the others, each and every time Salesforce release something new, right? So what's happening? The Aura component is the old technology, I should say. Lightning Web component is the new technology. It is like the workflow versus Lightning flows, or like process builder or flows. Flows are the new technology. Lightning Web component is the new technology. So they would like to ask if you have experience component, but still it is still new. Like when I say new, like it is used, I believe only last year, or maybe max 2 years it has. But most of the companies, they are just switching to Lightning Web component. Not all of the companies are using the Lightning Web component now. But if they are starting something new as a project, so they would like to use the new technology, Lightning Web component. But since you are gonna get educated on the Aura component and also Lightning Web component. So any question about like what is component and why do we use the Aura component?
Not for now, maybe.
Okay.
No.
I took it as a no. All right. So there are some bundles for the Aura component. For the interview purposes, I should say this is the main thing you should know. What is this Aura components? Like this component bundle, it has different files inside. They call it component, and the extension of the component is .cmp. Why do we use this component? For the view. Like this is for the UI side. Whatever we are writing a code here, we are just aiming that user can see on the UI side. There is another file, like let me try to show you from here. Normally what we are doing, we are just creating a class from here. We are creating a Apex trigger. There is Visual Force page, we are gonna come to that one later on while we are explaining the components. And then Visualforce component. So whatever we are just typing here, just say, I'm not sure if I have this one. Just give me a couple minutes. Maybe I have on the other one. Into Salesforce, and then got it. And also okay, I'm just trying to see if I have any components. Pages. This is page. This is Visualforce page, not this. I don't remember any file name here. This is my previous org. Let me try to create one. So, component. So it is gonna be something like this when you create it. But for a long time, I didn't create any like component, Aura component. So I'm not sure if it is this one, but whatever you gave a name, you are just putting over here. And if you remember, like the Apex classes, they have the extension of APXC for the class. And for the trigger, we have APXT. So this is changing for the Aura components. Like it is gonna be like the CMP for the component. For the controller, we are using the JavaScript. That's why it has an extension of the .js. We have helper classes. That classes are written by the JavaScript also. So this bundle is not applied for each and every use cases, but you should know when somebody talk about the Aura components, it has like 8 classes or 8 files inside. And most of the time, like you are just gonna use these 4 of them. So for this, what you need to know, JavaScript and CSS, which you get informed on the web development. I know most of you guys already forget it, but you are gonna remember easily. And then there is a documentation file, which is something different, Aura doc extension. There is a renderer, which is JavaScript file again, design, it is for here. So these are the things. I know it looks like scary when you check in the first time, but Sanjay is going to explain these are also. Like while he's explaining, you can ask the difference. I just tried to take some notes, like basic notes, what are the difference and why we are using them. And for the interview purposes, nobody is gonna ask you to like share the screen and type me a Aura component. Nobody is gonna do that. But they would like to know while you are writing down any Aura component, what kind of files you need to use. Then you need to mention these are. There are some Aura, like for the Aura component, we have some bundle, and inside this bundle, we have like 8 different files, but most of the time we used only 4 of them. And like what is the controller, for example? So controller handles the events on the UI side. And why do we use the helper? Helper is like the file we are creating the logic and we are giving the instruction for it. And for the helper, we need to get help from the JavaScript. We are using the JavaScript. Style, it is like about, for example, you are creating a component for this one, right? So if you would like to make this one like highlighted, or if you would like to make this sentence bold, you are getting help from the style. In that way, you are creating something which is really useful and it is UI friendly. Because whenever we create any component using the flows, it is just a basic like background it has. Some small changes we can do it, but it's not gonna be like the Aura component or the Lightning Web component. So you can create something, user can like it. That's why you are giving the beauty with the style file. So this is something you should know, but right now I know it doesn't ring any bell and it doesn't make any sense. For example, for the test classes, what we were doing, we were writing some Apex classes, then we are writing some test classes. So we need to use 2 different files, right? Or let me check lastly what we did. This is not that one. So we were just working on the Apex classes and test classes. But sometimes what we did, for example, for the triggers, we were writing down, let me find this instead. Okay, so this is the, get rid of these are. So first we created like the Apex class, then we were just creating trigger, account handler trigger, right? So say this is the trigger for this. And then we were creating a test class for this. So we were working like 3 different files. In here, we can say, instead of like 3 different files, we are gonna have maybe 4. So I don't have any specific example right now, and I'm not gonna write any code. The only thing I'm just trying to express, like, it is gonna be more than 2, 3 different files while you are typing an Aura component. But it is not gonna be like, for example, for your handler, you have like 15 lines, right? But some of these files, it's gonna be very short. Maybe like 3, 5 lines, something like that. But still, you need to call that file or call that class from another class. So that is the only complicated part about the Aura component. Any question until now? These are the main four you need to know. And if you get any question about the Aura component, you should remember these 8 normally. Sometimes they are just asking like, what is the design for? So we are using the design to like, if we need to edit this component, we are using the design. But most of the time, like for the user cases, this is something general. It is not for the training purposes. In the real life, most of people, they don't use these 4. That's why these 4 are the more important ones. If you would like to need to add some comments, you need to use the documentation file. Whenever you need to refresh and change the render behavior, you need to use the renderer. And lastly, there is SVG file. If you would like to get any user input or change any icon, you need to use the SVG file. Any question?
No.
Is there anyone who didn't understand anything? Because this is something new and it is hard to visualize it because I don't really remember the files.
Mevlüt Bey, may I ask you, I want to be sure, did I understand correct or not? With Aura component, we are gonna uh, design our pages with the code, right? We were doing with the app builder part manually. But with our component, we are gonna do this with the Apex code, right?
That's correct. Like we were preparing some components. Component, it just think it is just a box.
Mhm.
And inside that box, we need to put some information or we need to require some information from the user side. It can be any question or it can be a blank like field. They can put some input.
Mhm.
So we are creating that. After then we are designing it. We are giving some color, maybe background color, maybe like making the like colorful
Yeah.
words
We,
like this. Maybe we are making it like bold. Like think about this part.
I think we did some kind of uh, design when we were learning the web development part, right? With uh, Gülbey Bey. When we were working with Visual Studio, right? These are similar, I understand.
Visual Studio, like you just did some CSS for the websites, but in here you are gonna do the same thing using the different tool for the Salesforce.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, let me try to show you. So I just use this one. I think I made a mistake on this. I'm just trying to remember. I think it is Lightning component, yes. I found Aura component. I just gave a name. So here we need to select some of the tabs. According to this one, it is gonna give some different method names over here on the top when I submit this one. Okay, so this is the Aura component. So it is doing some implementation according to the whatever you select. So this is my CMP file, which is, what was that CMP? It is the component, right? So inside this, for example, it says Aura component. In between this, think about like this. This is the opening tag. This is the ending tag. In between these two, I need to put my logic. I need to put my code. And since in the beginning, we were just selecting some stuff, right? There was some list and I was just checking. We are gonna come through this one. Each and every of them is coming from that selected items. We will talk about that. And if you check here, since my Aura component file name is account Aura component, that's why it is showing like that. So it is showing me, I just created a component and this is the component. Is there any controller I have right now? No. To create it, what do I need to do? Control-Shift-2. Can you see this GS file? This is controller. And if we check here, my controller file should be JavaScript. So in here, if you see, the syntax is totally different. It has my action as a function, component, event, helper. So you need to type right in between these two parentheses to your controller. It should be on the JavaScript. And for the helper, I need to do Control, Shift, and 3. It took a picture or something. Wait. Maybe in my computer it is different. No, it didn't work. Okay, let me do this. Duplicate value found, or a definition bundle ID duplicate value. Now it got it. So this is the CSS file for the style. This one. So basically, whenever you create the component file first, then you can just select the others by just clicking. My console right here. If we check this one, style file is totally something different. It is starting with .this. For the documentation, it is something totally different. He's gonna explain all this stuff one by one. I'm just trying to show you, while you are creating a component or a component, if you have all the requirements, then you need to use these 8. But believe me, you are not gonna use that much, and it is gonna be up to 4. So this is the renderer. It is with the GS, and this is for the design. Design column component, and this is the SVG. I think I need to wait, otherwise it's making a duplicate. So it is starting from here as a component, then controller, then helper, then style, documentation, renderer, design, SVG file. And you are not gonna use these for, this is extension of Aura doc, which is documentation. So most of the time you are gonna use these for. No need to memorize like the syntax here, because whenever you choose it, it is just gonna automatically assign it, and you just need to type your code in between the parentheses. The only thing you should know, this is the detail side, you need to know what are you implementing here. And we are gonna go details about these are, because if you check until here, you are just using implementing. For the batch Apex, if you remember, we were using the implements also. Do you guys remember that?
Yes.
We were saying implement database.queueable or database.batchable. So in here, instead of one, we are implementing more than one. And each and every one of this one has a meaning. And they are separated by comma. So sometimes you might not need to use all of them together. But whatever you need to, like whatever you need to use according to the use case, then you can write it down or you can just delete it. For example, if I don't need this one, I can delete this one. It is gonna work, but it is not gonna implement that one. We are gonna talk about this in detail and we are gonna explain this. But somehow we need to have some of these values here. I'm just trying to get rid of some of them because I need to show you one more thing. And there is an access here. So this is also assigned like automatically, and it should be global. In that way, you can reach this file like wherever, if you are here or here or here. I don't remember right now if like in any condition do we need to like make this access private or public, something like that. I think we can make it public, but I'm not sure about the private, because in that way we are not going to be able to reach this file. Since we are going to use these 4 files, we need to reach each other from the other file. So for example, for this one, for the style, we need to reach the component file. As I said, I am just gonna go through the basic, and I'm just trying to show you the whole structure. Otherwise, if you ask me if I'm comfortable for 8 of this bundle, no. But I'm sure about one thing, which is I have to know this table for the interview purposes. Any question? I'm not trying to scare you guys. I'm just, maybe for the first day, I went too much. But you need to see the whole picture. In that way, you can go details for each and every file later on. That's what I am trying to give. Otherwise, you don't need to memorize it right now, but before the interview, you have to.
So after we create all this necessary files, let's say the first 4, and each of them has a different syntax and ending.
Yeah.
Are we calling them under something else? So they're all together under something and just working together, or like how are they coming together at the end?
No, for example, for the, how can I say, when you run the test class, what was happening? It was running the trigger, and trigger was running the Apex code, right? So you are just gonna run only one of them, and the other one is gonna trigger the other files. So you don't need to run each and every of them separately.
I
But
see.
you need to give them the connection.
Yes, okay, I see.
That's why you need to like tie them together.
Okay.
And this is the like another explanation, like same thing, basically. Component, it contains the markup. So when it is markup, what do you guys remember markup language?
HTML?
HTML, right? Markup language. Controller, this handles the events on the client side, which is, what did I say here? So it handles the events on the UI side. We are using the JavaScript. So the only thing, if you remember the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then you are gonna be able to write down, because until now, what we were doing, we were just trying to type everything according to the Apex, right? But this is gonna change a little bit. Like the HTML, it is not a big deal. JavaScript and CSS, you should remember some like methods, that kind of stuff. For the helper, the developer can write the common logic inside the helper used by different controller methods, avoiding any sort of repetition. Instead of like using these book language, I just try to make it like minimize while I try to remember it. Otherwise, it's the same thing. This is the source, and this is my summary. Whatever it is easy for you guys, you can just take that one. Any question? Since these are all like theoretical knowledge, I know it doesn't make sense. That's why I just wanted to share this one. Like, how do we need to create this one and why the syntax are different? But Sanjay is gonna give you guys more details about it.
Okay.
All right. So since we have some mobile app, we can just, for example, if I come back to the beginning, let me get back to here. So if you remember, we were just using this one for the, at the end, when we tried to save activated, it was asking us, right? So are you going to use this one for the desktop or mobile or both of them together? Because as a feature of Salesforce, you can use this one as a mobile app, or you can use over the desktop. For that reason, the question is saying that, like, how does Salesforce One mobile app use in the Lightning components? First, we need to create a Lightning tab for the Lightning component, which is the first one, CMP file. Then we need to include the tab in the navigation select list for the Salesforce One mobile app, then the newly created tab to it. So basically, it is trying to say this. Whenever you create a Lightning tab by the code, then you are gonna create a component here. See, I created one component, right? What was it named? Account Aura component. Now it is showing up under the custom component. And then since I don't have anything inside here, but if I try to insert that one here, then you are gonna be able to see another component like this one, or something like whatever I put inside, whatever I give as style, like maybe red color something or yellow background on it, and it requires some input from the user, something like that. But whatever you created, you are gonna see here, you are gonna drag and drop it here. In that way, your UI side is gonna see that. Can a Lightning component be used that works for the both interfaces, like for the mobile or desktop? Yes, it's possible, because after you create the component, you created the component, for example, this one. And then while you are saving, it is asking you, like, whatever you would like to pick, according to that, it's gonna create like that. So it is possible you can use it for the mobile or desktop interface. Okay. This is something related to like technical terms. Does Lightning component work with the Visualforce? Most of the time, I was confusing about the Visualforce and Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code, it is a tool we are typing our code, right? But Visualforce is something different. But Lightning components, they can work with the Visualforce, because this is also another old technology inside the Salesforce. Before the Lightning, they were using Visualforce pages. They were using the Visualforce to type their code. So this is before the Lightning experience, you can say. And Lightning components are used in the Visualforce pages for use the Salesforce Visualforce communities as well as the classic environment. So think about like this. There was Salesforce Classic, right? So I would like to switch to the Classic. The page is totally different. Some people, they already got used to this because they have a Salesforce experience, maybe 10 years, maybe like 15 years. But for me, it is really hard to use this one. And like they were writing their code on the Visualforce page. Since it is switch to Lightning experience, they are using the Aura components, but when they create the Aura components as a new technology at that time, they made it possible to use this Aura components with the Visualforce. How can we see this Visualforce page? So if I come back to this one right here. So when we say new, so this one, we skip this one, right? This is the Visualforce page. Visualforce component. Accidentally, I created this one in the first attempt. But Aura component, which we created this one, account Aura component file here. So we created under the Lightning component. But for the Visualforce, they were using this one. They were giving a name, then it was creating a Visualforce. I created this one under the Visualforce component. That's why it is showing like as a component. But they were using this one previously. Let me say account Visualforce page. Okay, it says page here, right? And this is like Visualforce page, VFP extension. This is the component. That's why Visualforce component. So these two are old technology, but some people, they know about these are more than I do. But the thing is here, the question is asking you, like, can you use the Aura components or Lightning components for the Visualforce pages? Or like these two is like Visualforce, right? Both of them. One of them is component, one of them is page. It is asking you, are you gonna be able to use this Lightning component for the Visualforce? Yes, you can use it. And what was the Lightning component? Lightning component is including Lightning Web component and Aura component. That's why terminology is so much important while you are talking. I'm just trying to pick the words correctly. Otherwise, it can easily make lots of confusion. Does it make any sense, like at least what is Visualforce, what is Lightning, what is the Lightning component, what is the Visualforce component? If you just check this one here, Visualforce has page and component. Lightning has component and application. But we are not talking about the application now. We are creating our Aura components from here because it is under the Lightning component. LWC, it will be under the Lightning component also. Did I confuse you guys or are you guys okay?
I'm okay, maybe, but I think it's gonna be better understanding after we work on
Yes.
some examples, I
Yes.
think.
I just try to wait Sanjay about like, because if we talk about this one like 2 weeks before the Sanjay starts the Aura components, it's not gonna make sense because you are gonna forget whatever I am just showing you here. It is something like you cannot visualize it. But since we are talking about this one today, if he can start tomorrow, then you are gonna have an idea and you are gonna be able to ask some questions to him when he started. That's why like I just wanted to start instead of just waiting. Hopefully it makes a little bit sense. I'm not expecting you guys to absorb everything what I am talking right now, but it's gonna take some time and he's gonna go like, since I show you guys all the stuff together to give you the whole picture, but you are gonna create this one first. He's gonna explain, then he's gonna go through this, then he's gonna wait and he's gonna continue with the helper, then he's gonna combine them together and give you an example, something like that. So it's gonna be step by step. No need to worry. For today, I would like to mention one more thing, then I'm gonna finish the day, which is this one. So there is a model, they call it MVC model, which is, this is a framework, and this framework means like, this is something inside a frame, like think about like it has some borders like this, and can Lightning be viewed as a MVC framework? Not really, because I'm gonna explain like what is MVC model. MVC is the initial of the model, view, and controller. And what do they mean when they say model? Like, for example, think about the account object. Since it is already provided by Salesforce, right? We are just using that. Behind that account object, there are some code which is written with the like some SQL. It is written because when you do some SQL queries, it is bringing some data for you. This is the model, and as an example, what is model? Like you can just say any kind of object, like say contact object, opportunity object, whatever. These are the models. And view, it is the viewed from the UI side. And this one is written extremely with the HTML. So if you remember like the front end, back end, so front end is the UI side and it is written by the HTML. The last thing, C, is controller and the logic you are putting here. Basically, you are writing your code inside the controller and you are writing your code for the JavaScript. This is the MVC model. But for the Lightning component, we are using a framework which is not MVC, because we said MVC is a framework also. Instead of this MVC, we are using the components. So our framework contains the components. Does it make a little bit sense? This is something very common, and I don't want to say all, they are still using this, but there are different kind of frameworks. This is one of them only. And this is the popular one. But if we try to apply this one to Salesforce, this is the framework for the MVC. Model is the account object. It is written with the SQL, and view, it means from the UI side, it is written by the HTML. Controller, you are putting your code, which is written by the JavaScript. But for the Lightning components, the framework itself, it is including the components. The boundary is not this one. The framework, this MVC model doesn't apply actually for the Lightning components. Does it make sense? Any sense? Or is it too much for the one day?
This makes sense so far, but again, we
Yeah.
cannot be sure.
So, since from here, I just tried to give you an idea what is the Lightning components. It is including what, and since we said when we say Lightning component, it is including the Aura component and Lightning Web component. Which one is new? This one is new. This one is old, but still some companies are using this. And before the Lightning component, there was some Visualforce. And Visualforce had the component, and it has the page. But can you apply the Lightning components to the Visualforce? Yes, you can. You can apply this one to here. But as a model, Aura component and Lightning components are coming together, and they are creating, or whenever somebody says Lightning component, it includes both of them, these two. This is the old one, this is the new one. Except that, what did we talk? We talk about this part. What is the component bundle? So you are gonna get familiar to this whenever you start typing some code, and then since you have little bit idea about this, then you can ask more questions to Sanjay to explain him. And also, even I'm just gonna try to dig into it and ask him a bunch of questions about this.
There was a question in the developer exam that has 3 answers, and it was about this. And the
About
answers were,
this?
yes, it was,
Yeah.
they were options, and the there were like 3 answers, and it was controller, helper, and renderer.
Yes. And believe me, if you receive any question about the Aura component in any interview, you can just basically say, I have the general idea, but I couldn't get any chance to work on the Aura components. But as far as I remember, like there are some like component bundles for the Aura component, and most of the time we were using like only 4 of them. And if they ask what are they, like the component, controller, helper, and style, and why do you use the helper? We are just using the helper to put some logic and put some instructions inside. And like for the helper, we are using the JavaScript. These kind of like general knowledge. When you say this, at least they are gonna say, yeah, like even he or she doesn't have any experience on it, she knows the basic, like the structure. But I didn't see anyone asking like, can you write me the Aura component? Because when they ask you something like that, you need to create like not only one file, you need to create at least 3, 4 files, and they don't have time for it. That's why instead of like asking you a question from the Aura component as a like sharing the screen and showing them, they can ask you some triggers, Apex code, or test class, something like that. So this one is really important. And then these are not really. The only thing you need to know, you can create the Lightning component for the mobile or desktop. This one is important to understand the difference between Visualforce and the Lightning component, because Visualforce has a component also. It is the old one. And sometimes they can ask you like VMC or MVC model. They call it MVC model sometimes. Sometimes they call it MVC framework. But if they ask you Lightning components, is it the same thing? Can you apply this one for the MVC model? Not really, because for the Lightning components, the framework includes, it is based on the components. It's not applying to the MVC model exactly. I think this will be enough if you get any question like that. We can repeat it tomorrow. No need to worry about it. After Sanjay shows some stuff, some more details about this, it is gonna be getting clear, but it will take time. No need to worry about it. And I'm just gonna stop right here. If you guys have any question, I can try to answer. Otherwise, we can wrap it up here.
I'm good.
I
Great.
don't have any questions.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for today.
All right. No worries. See you guys in the Sanjay's class. Thank you so much.
See you.